Hi everyone, today we have an exciting show. We have our grounds manager, Jan Grobler, a familiar face around the club. And then we also have a specialist, Johan van Vieren, our agronomy consultant from Turf and Soil Solutions. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you very much.
So Johan, I do have a bio here. It's quite a long one. I've had to summarize it. If you guys can indulge, I am going to read it. I don't want to mess up anything here. If I hadn't summarized it, I think we would have run out of time. Johan is one of South Africa's leading turf specialists. You completed a 4-year Bsc with honors in soil and plant sciences, as well as a master's degree in soil science at Potchefstroom. And then you also, through the University of Michigan State in the US, which is known as one of the top educational facilities, a turf and management program through there. Did you travel much to the States?
There wasn't really much time, but we did travel and saw did some conferences and so on. But it was a tough time and a short time to do a lot of studying when I was at Michigan State.
Okay, amazing. Jan, you spent a bit of time in the States. Obviously a great experience with all the different courses there. And the reason I think we've got this together is we had a very informative session with Johan at our grounds committee meeting, and we thought this would be a wonderful opportunity to share some of that knowledge with our members. So you consult for many courses around South Africa. How long have you been doing it for, and how many courses?
Well, I've been doing this since even before I went to Michigan State. I was involved at Ellis Park for the 1995 World Cup. Then I went to the States and came back, and I'm consulting currently at about 30 golf courses in South Africa, mostly in Gauteng, but I do consult on an ad hoc basis to other courses in the country as well.
Sure, that's incredible. So Johan, we've had a tough 18 months, to put it that way, which has obviously led to a few things. Here at Bryanston, we experienced a bit of Pythium root rot. Can you just tell us a little bit about that disease?
Well, it's a disease that actually starts when we have hot weather conditions and with moisture, or even in dry conditions it can also start showing its symptoms. It's always visible in the soil, and as soon as the conditions become favorable, it will start becoming active and attack the plant. What the disease actually does is it destroys the ability of the root system to uptake enough water and the plant nutrients that it's supposed to take out of the soil. So it's very difficult when you have the disease. You actually need to overwater the greens because the plant can't take up the water, but if you overwater the greens, the disease gets worse and so on. It's a difficult disease to treat. And also then what happens with this disease, it actually thins out the turf quite a bit. And then all the practices that you need to do to fix the disease and get it done and out of the plants also involves that the plant thins out, and because you've got to stress them, and that is one of the difficult ones about Pythium root rot to manage.
Sure, yeah. So in your guys' environment, you're constantly working with Mother Nature, always changing, unpredictable. Do these practices, once you change, lead to anything else, or does it affect something else?
Well, one of the things that with all these environmental conditions that we've experienced is I think everybody don't remember that we had a 3-year spell of La Nina where it was more rain than normally, much more rain. Actually, we got more than 1,000 mils in the 1 year compared to what we usually need to get is about 750 millimeters. And then followed by, after the La Nina, we had an El Nino year last year with extreme heat conditions and very low rainfall. So, yeah, the conditions outside makes it very tough to grow the grass. People think it's quite easy, but it's a huge area that's covered, and all the greens has got their separate microenvironments. So you'll have the disease more affected in one green, more affected than another green because of the microenvironments. So, yeah, it is difficult. The plant was acceptable, as I mentioned. It thinned out, and it gave Poa annua a chance to come into those areas where the bent was weak because it's such an invasive grass. One Poa plant can produce up to 7,000 seeds over its lifespan. So it's always there, the Poa seed, and the things that you need to do for the Pythium root rot like a hollow tining and etc. to get the air clean air into the soil, also then creates seed beds for the poa to come up from the bottom, and then it actually seeds the poa in those hollow tine holes. So yes, the one factor that you have to do affects another one in the whole circumstances. So that makes it quite difficult.
Sure. So look, I was fortunate enough to attend one or two of your seminars. Unfortunately, Jan said I didn't do enough to qualify for a greenkeeping certificate. I think the one thing that stood out is how little I actually know about what goes on in the soil science. Can you maybe just explain a little bit more about what POA is, just for our sort of golfer back home?
Okay, POA is an annual grass. It means that it's got a life cycle from a certain date up until the next year, the same date. So it lives 1 year, and then it will produce seed heads at the end of the season, and those seed heads will then germinate again, and you'll have another cycle of it. But it's not only an annual grass. There are some certain varieties that's perennial as well, and they will stay there. They also the ones that makes less seed. They've got a better putting surface than the annual one because there's no seed heads. But that is, and it's a very aggressive invader. It's got a very active growth pattern, and it can grow with a very shallow root system. And that's why it's so easy when you have the Pythium root rot on the bend and stuff, and you have layering in your greens, like we have layering here at Bryanston, a lot of layering in the greens. That POA can survive in those conditions much better. And since due to the fact that it can survive with a very, very shallow root system.
So I remember the black layer was our main problem. We did a hollow tining after that. Jan, can you maybe give us an update and what you feel after that hollow tining, how our green's looking?
Yeah, definitely. The layering is a bit better. It's not fixed yet, but it's much better. We're also using some chemicals to speed the process up to try and get rid of that layering. But it's a time process. It's not overnight you're going to get rid of the layering. So we in discussion on what we can do to speed up the process. We're doing everything chemical-wise and maintenance-wise to speed the process up to get rid of the layering. So yeah, it's much better. Not fixed yet, but much better already.
Great. So we are going to be hollow tining again in September, and I'm assuming that that's to try and get rid of this black layer.
Yeah, it's just not just for the black layering. I mean, it is just to get some oxygen back into the greens for the roots to have space to grow. So hollow tining is a unfortunate, bad experience, but a great maintenance tool for us. You need to do it, unfortunately, just to give that grass the best chance with our Mother Nature that's not working always with us, just to give it the best chance to grow and to get good surfaces again.
Yeah, and I suppose these cultural practices are so important to the longevity of greens. With our primary focus obviously being the recovery from root rot, do we have a secondary plan on the POA, and what sort of timelines could we be looking at to see an improvement?
Well, just to come back quickly with the improvement of the POA, one thing, the reason why we have more POA this year compared to previous years is that we had to pull off the PGRs. PGRs is a plant growth regulator. That is the method how we try and maintain the POA and manage the POA so that it doesn't increase too much. Unfortunately, there's no silver bullet that takes it out. So we've got to manage it over time with the different PGRs that's to our availability in this country. And like I said, we had to pull that off for about 3 to 4 months for the bend to recover after the root rot disease that we had. So yes, going into the short-term future, as Jana said, we're going to hollow tine. We're trying to hollow tine more than once in a year so that we can create channels of fresh sand that goes through this black layer and through the thatch layer that's in the greens so that the roots can go down in those channels that we're creating. Again, like he also said, it's not a quick fix. It takes a while to recover. But unfortunately, we've got to go through this to try and increase the longevity of the greens. Looking at the POA, and I'm confident that if the weather allows it this year, we will be, when we're 100% back on the PGRs at the moment. So if you go through the next period and can continue with the PGRs, we will definitely fight the POA. There's a lot of courses in Johannesburg that's on these programs. Unfortunately, we are still in the baby steps also of this program because we've only been doing it for about 18 months. While the other courses are already like 5 years down the line on these programs, and we can reap the success that with the over time. So yes, I am comfortable with programs that we're following. We are following the best scientific programs that's available in the world. It's not just a thing that we sucked out of the air here and trying to do this. Like I said, a lot of courses in Joburg and Pretoria is following this. This is a program that we actually got from the States overseas, and they're following with success there as well.
Fantastic. Now, Jan, I have noticed we've been doing a little bit more verti draining, dusting sort of regularly on Mondays. Can you just explain to us kind of what the benefits are to those practices?
Yeah, so the dusting happens through your growing season. It's just to add that little bit of sand, making the surfaces more smooth and adding new quality sand into the profile. And that's with the verti draining, it goes hand to hand, just to create again space for the water to go down, space for roots to grow, oxygen, and just to get the profile better quicker. And with the holotining, what we also do is we're doing interseeding with the most newest seeds, like variants, stronger bends that's more disease friendly and resistant, yeah, and also heat tolerant, all of that. So we're trying to get new growth into the greens, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think the one thing I've noticed is the different life of a golf course, how it changes from being nice and green in summer to going dormant and a bit firmer and faster in winter. And it's incredibly how nature plays its part in that golf course. So I'm assuming with the warmer months, that's why we do the interseeding, because the bent grass seems to flourish a little bit more in warmer months.
Yeah, the bent grass actually, when it gets as cold and the frost switches off completely, and that's why it also changes its color, and you'll see the bent is not as green as it is during the summer. While the POA can tolerate much more colder temperatures, and that's why the POA also stays lime green even if it's so cold. And that's also one of the difficulties in managing it, because while the bent is completely like dormant, the POA is not, and the POA can increase. And that's why the continuous use of the PGRs right through the winter is very important to try and keep that POA at bay. If you go to courses that's got 100% POA greens, the guys love it at the moment because their greens are green. And everybody thinks if a green is green, it's healthy. It's not necessarily when the green is green, it's healthy. So yes, to come back also just on the interseeding, the grasses that we use at the moment is called the super bents. They the latest and the best varieties all over the world that we're trying to incorporate here, and that will also help to fight the POA. With more interseeding, the stronger plant you bring in, the super bents are much more denser than the old A1, A4s and bent grasses and grasses like that. So the more dense the grass is, the less chance POA's got to get in there. And they measure the density in plants per cup unit, and your super bents is more than twice as dense compared to your older varieties. Sure. So that's part of the future that we look at, is to introduce these new grasses to fight better against POA. First of all, it's more disease resistant, so hopefully the Pythium root rot won't hit us so hard if it comes again. But we are also on complete preventative programs for the Pythium root rot at the moment to try and sort out that it doesn't hit us again.
So are these different strains of grasses modified from knowledge of diseases in the past?
Yes, absolutely. There's continuously research being done. they call it the NTEP trials, the National Turf Grass Evaluation Program in the States, and they continuously plant new grasses and then infect them with diseases, do traffic trials on them, and then see how they cope in all these different circumstances. Which one can cope with less water, warmer temperatures, and which is less disease resistant.
Sure. So you mentioned a little earlier that a green doesn't necessarily mean a healthy green. What, in your opinion, if we had to say, okay, what are we looking for to see that the greens are now healthy?
Most of the healthiness you can measure by means of your amount of growth, and also the density of the grass is very important to look at. Your root system is always important. I know they joke with Jan because every time when you walk on a green, he cuts out a core and have a look at the roots. But
I was shocked when he did that for the first time.
That is the most important thing that you can do, is what goes underneath. That's where the life starts of the plants, and what happens underneath is going to reflect directly on what happens on top. So soil analysis on a frequent basis, measuring organic matter content. This new science of measuring organic matter content that's out now, they call it OM246. So we're following all those new practices that we already implemented, and to run the greens the most scientific that we can.
So with summer coming up, obviously we all want the best greens. If you had your way with a magic wand, what sort of conditions or weather conditions would you be hoping for this summer to assist us?
Well, if you look at the forecast at the moment, they're forecasting a weak La Nina, which means that we will have more rain than normally, but it also means that we might have warmer days. Usually when it's a strong La Nina, it's a cooler summer, with much more rain, but it's a weak one, it's developing. So they are forecasting warmer days, but also with sufficient rain. So if we can manage it and it doesn't affect our cultural practices, the rainfall and the heat, and doesn't affect chemical applications, I can foresee that we've also learned a lot about these greens in the last 2 years on how they react to these different climatic conditions and have to adapt to it. And I think that is the way forward, that Jan and I will keep a close eye on it, manage it on a daily basis, a very hands-on basis, to make sure that we're on top of the world.
Sure. Thank you, guys. I think that was incredibly informative. It's amazing the science and the sort of practices that go into this, and also how reliant we are on weather. So appreciate your guys' time, and hopefully our members feel a little bit more informed and can fall more in love with the process of the golf course.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Darren.